Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 42, Episode 5. I'm your host, Chris, firstly, and I'm joined here by my co-host, Jake, for Survivor 42. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Chris. I really enjoyed this episode, but I'm a little bit worried for next week, as we'll get into.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're one episode away now from the merge, but we'll definitely talk about that when we see next on Survivor at the end of this
Mhm.
episode. But I do want to get into a few things just before we start the recap in full. For those that have been wondering where the top 5 takeaways are for this specific episode, I'll work on that tomorrow. I do apologize. I've had a super busy week at work. I do have a full-time job as well as doing this as well. I don't want to make a habit of it. Normally, I will have them on time. Also, we had this week, Jake, on the channel, our buff giveaway, which is really exciting for those that do follow Australian Survivor. We've got both merch buffs from this season and last season that I gave away to 2 different viewers of the show. And what I received in the mail this week is this bad boy right here. So the first 5 merge buffs for Survivor CBS. They're quite rare to find. I am also going to make this available when we hit 1,000 subs on the channel to one of our viewers. So some more buff giveaways that's going to happen here in the future. And also, Christian, first person here in the live stream, welcome to the live stream. Great to have you. All right, Jake, let's get into the episode. It was quite an interesting episode because we start off with the Ika tribe coming back to camp, and there is a little bit of, I guess, fallout from the previous episode here that happened, and Roxroy was not included in the vote. Like we said, I was quite surprised that Roxroy, who likes to be in control, he's a control freak, did not get included in this vote. What was your takeaway when it came to this tribe and how divided they are at this point?
Yeah, it's a bit interesting. We know that Drea and Romeo are kind of running things, and they made the decision to not put him in the loop. And I think that was probably smart because I don't think he would have been okay with it. I think he wanted to keep Swati, as we saw at Tribal Council. He was like defending her, and I just don't think he's a fan of Tori very much. So, bit interesting. This tribe is absolutely doomed going into the merge. I mean, there's no way. Like Tori already doesn't want to work with them. Roxroy now feels like he can't trust them because he was just left out. And Drea's already kind of become a threat within themselves. So they're doomed, I think.
I think so as well. I think
Like
both
as
those
a
tribes,
unit, yeah.
but both Vati and Ika, to me, I just
Yeah,
look at them as both just 2 train wreck tribes. Maybe
right.
like
Yeah.
they can find themselves somewhere, and like half of the tribe from Vati and half of the tribe from Ika can form a core. But I think it's unlikely when you're looking at Taku being really unified, which we'll obviously get into for this episode. But I found it really interesting that Tori says there's no way I'm sticking with these guys. It just shows you how I feel like they've misread the situation. Because yes, Swati was lurking in the shadows and she had her eyes on Drea, but I actually think she honestly wanted to work with Tori. She honestly wanted to work with Romeo and also Roxroy. So I feel like for team cohesion, they made the wrong choice last week, and Tori is just the better snake oil salesperson out there. She got away with it in the end, and obviously we know she's got experience. Being a psychiatrist, being able to tell people what they want to hear. She's played in a few other reality or online reality game show types of things like Sequester. So she's got a little bit of experience in this. And I think that her experience is what sort of got her past Swati in that specific spot. Christian here saying the fake real merge is going to be very interesting next week. And we'll definitely talk about that towards the end. And Russell Muscle, welcome to the live stream as well. Quite interesting here. We do go to Taku tribe after this opening segment, and we see a little bit of Jonathan at camp, him getting really frustrated by the 2 ladies. Marianne and Lindsay, they constantly talk and they constantly fight about everything. His saving grace is to get out of camp and to remove himself from that situation, taking himself away for up to 2 to 3 hours at a time. And Russell Muscle, who's in the live stream, kind of mentioned last episode when we recapped it that Xavier said how difficult it was to go out of camp to do other things because people could strategize while you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a risk is this for Jonathan, or do you like this move from him to diffuse the situation by just getting out of there?
I mean, if you really are that concerned about yourself, like making a scene, and you feel like you have to take yourself out of the situation, then I guess then maybe it was the right call. But as you said, I mean, going out for 2 to 3 hours at a time, like that's a long time for. And we saw Lindsay and Marianne; they just don't stop talking. Like they're just going to keep talking, and eventually strategy is going to pop up. And I mean, I've been saying like Jonathan's in a really good spot, but you know the merge is coming around, and that's really where they like to target the strong guys. So I don't agree with the move, but I get it. Like coming from like a personal side, like I get like just kind of wanting some alone time. Personally, I'm like I like to have just a couple hours to myself at a time to just be alone. I know some people are like absolutely not. Like I want to be in a group setting at all times, talking to someone. So I get it from that point, but this is Survivor where it's a social game. You need to be in those
Yeah.
conversations, talking. Like you don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I like balance in life. So I'm definitely an extrovert, as you could probably tell, doing a podcast and being quite passionate about things when I talk about it. I'm definitely an extrovert, but I also have introverted tendencies sometimes. Where if I've had a really big week, like this week for instance at work, I was in and out of meetings, I was constantly on the move, where I was just towards the end, I was pretty knackered, where I just needed a couple of hours to decompress, not be on social media, not consume any of that noise. And when you're out on the island, like you said, you can't just go to your room. There is no room. There is no doors to close if Marianne's annoying
Yeah.
you. So the best thing he can do in that situation is to take himself out of that situation. Like you said, if he blows up, and he makes a great observation. Obviously, this escalates when he's busy chopping wood and she gets close, and I don't even think she got hurt, but Marianne does seem to be someone that blows everything up to 120 because it's just her personality. I'm sure she means well, but it's her personality. He says, I have to keep my cool because if I blow up at her, I'm this massive 6'5" guy,
Yeah.
200 and something, 50 pounds. I don't do pounds in New Zealand, but he's a massive guy. And if he goes off, no matter what the case, even if he's right, he is going to be painted as the villain. And I don't think he cares so much about being painted as the villain outside of the game. I think he's talking about in the game, he's got zero chance to win if he blows up at a little girl. And how would that be perceived within the game? So I understand it. I think I would have wanted to take myself out of that situation as well. And let's be honest, they were annoying this episode.
I get it. I do. Marianne, I love her. Like from what we see on the episode, for only maybe a 5-minute segment, that's what we see of her, at camp at a time. And we really love it. But if we're around that 24/7, who knows what we would think. So I've seen people say like, kind of criticizing Jonathan for like, being a bully, but I don't agree with that. I don't think that look, she can be a lot. Personally, I like her. He's said in the past he likes her. It can just be too much. So
Yeah. I've said this many a times, right? People need to put it into perspective. I don't know if you've got siblings. I've got siblings. I think you do have a sister, right? So I'm sure you love your sister, but I'm sure there's certain times when your sister annoys the hell out of you. It's just life.
Yeah. I have 3 sisters, no brothers, only boy growing up. I was the youngest, so I was picked on. I get it. They can be a lot, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to be this likable guy all the time. The problem is when you're out in a game like Survivor, the cameras are rolling 24 hours. So you don't know what is going to make the TV show that one moment of you snapping, and people see that and they're like, oh, that's you. That is how you are as a person all the time. We're going to be moving on to the next tribe pretty soon, Christian, and I'll answer that question for you because I thought that was a very interesting flashback for Romeo. But I do want to finish off here. In this specific episode, in this tribe here, we get to see Omar suddenly inserting himself. My winner pick, I still think he's going to win this game based on what I'm seeing at this stage, edit-wise, but he's seen as the person to say, I need the tribe to stay calm. They need to be unified. If a tribe sees this, the other tribes see this when we go into the merge, they'll be able to scoop Marianne up, who's now got hidden immunity idol who we know will be activated after this episode, and also she's got an extra vote, so she is really invaluable to this tribe if they want to be competitive going into the merge and if they want a chance at actually getting deep into the game. So again, I like what I'm seeing from Jonathan because he's socially aware as to how he's being perceived, which tells me he's got a great social game. He definitely isn't someone I'm counting out as a potential winner, but I just feel like he's too obvious at this point, where Omar is that person. He's like the person that's getting the edit of always having to insert himself and be strategically very smart about the things that he says, and it makes sense. So I do think Omar is still my dark horse pick at this point. I don't even know if Lindsay got a confessional this week. I know Russell Muscle is in the live chat. That's his winner's pick, and I'd like to know, Russell, if you're still here, if you still think that Lindsay has got that strong pick. I know that winners don't always get a confessional every single episode, but she was missing this episode a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, after last season, who the hell knows what's going to happen? I mean, Erica's tribe was about as invisible as you can get, but that also makes sense because they didn't go to any tribal councils. But even when they did go to the tribe and get a confessional, it was always Sydney or Nasir saying something. It was never on her. So I don't know.
Yeah,
analyzing the edit gives me a headache sometimes. I mean,
but I'm loving it. I just want to say, Jake,
I do,
such a fresh breath of air after watching Australian Survivor. I struggled towards the end of Australian Survivor to get through it, and it's nothing to do with the players. It's all about the edit being so blatantly obvious that there is only one person that can possibly win this season. I hate that. Like with Survivor US, at least it is a guess. Like none of us actually know at this point. There's educated guesses we can take based on little hints that are being given in the edit, but I much prefer this. And hearing from so many different people of what their perspective is of the game and what their strategy is, I do feel like, I don't know, there's people that are watching this recap that don't watch Australian Survivor, and they may feel like the US Survivor is not doing a great job with the edit and there is purple edits. Just believe me when I say it can get worse. There are other franchises out there that are doing worse than this at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, like how much worse Australian Survivor is. Like it's
edit wise, right? Like we need to clarify. Like it's still a great show, but edit wise, it's not. Yeah.
Like
just know here in the live stream as well. Hello, how you doing, mate? I did want to go into the tribe here with Romeo. So we go over to the Ika tribe. The Ika tribe with Romeo going and searching for an idol with Drea here this episode. And let's talk about a little bit about this specific comment here by Christian. During Romeo's flashback in this episode, do you think it is foreshadowing a female winner this season? What are your thoughts? Because I found it really interesting. I didn't really know if it foreshadowed a female winner, but I found it funny that he was walking around saying that he is coaching Drea on how to be a better Survivor player. And I was like, how? Like, I don't even think you're a better player than her today. Like, I think Drea's a better player than you. And I know Romeo is highly regarded by Russell, Muscle, and yourself, but I honestly think Drea's running circles around this kid. And I think that she would win in most seasons. Like, if they were to play 100 seasons, she would have a better strike rate because she is bold and she goes out there and takes the swing. So I just found it funny that he's out there coaching her when he's a first-time player himself.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I mean, that's usually something you would have like a returning player say to a newer player, like they already know the game. So, but it's weird coming from two new players. But I did think that was an interesting flashback that they showed, and his comment could be foreshadowing maybe like a duo making it to the end, and maybe I don't know. Yeah, I think that maybe a duo goes to the end, and like maybe the one that you may think was better loses to the one that I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say?
I think it could be. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think it could be a little bit of foreshadowing potentially in the future that somewhere down the line Romeo's gonna fall on his sword for Drea to go further, like after the merge. Because I feel like Romeo, and I've said this before, I think he could be a great player when he's in the numbers, but we all know that this tribe, him and Drea are close, but I don't feel like Roxroy and Tori are that attached to the tribe now. I saw enough from Roxroy here this episode as well to say, I've just noticed that my social game's horrible. I need to adjust what I'm doing out here. Like, he's become more aware that he's not as tight in with those guys as he thought he was. And I could easily see people wanting to use him as like a goat going to the end because no one's going to vote for him because he's an unlikable character. He could become the Philip Shepherd of this season, for a lack of someone better at this point to think of. Not that I think he is as out there as Philip Shepherd. Like, let's be honest, no one is as out there as Philip Shepherd. But I mean, he could be that type of archetype where people drag him towards the end because they know they'll beat him at the end, because who's going to vote for Roxroy if he's out there inserting himself on everybody and trying to dictate where the plans and the votes are going to go. So I think that Romeo is going into the merge without numbers, and he doesn't have advantages. Drea's got advantages. She's got cross-tribal allegiances that she's already built from going to Shipwheel Island, from getting the amulet. I think she's got more room to maneuver, and I also think she's got that hustle in her, that hunger to do better when she gets there. So I feel like he's going to fall on a sword, or he's going to go before her down the line. And I feel like that is what is being foreshadowed in this episode here more than anything else for me.
I would agree with that. I think that Drea's definitely got more to her when she's on the bottom, which I think is going to happen. I think that Tori's definitely gone. I mean, she explicitly said it in the episode. Roxroy is probably going to realize that he needs to branch out and do something. So I think that they might try.
I don't look at Roxroy as a threat, right? Like, who's going to look at Roxroy as a threat? Like, I mean, the guy maybe can win one immunity somewhere if it's in his wheelhouse. Like, I don't think he's a beast out there. I mean, people are going to be far more worried about Jonathan, about Lindsay and Drea as physical beasts on the game. I think that he could go in there and people could use him as a tool, because I think if he finds people saying, hey, we'll be loyal to you, he'll stick with them. I don't think he's got game savviness about him or any sort of agency to move around and become a mastermind. So I wouldn't be scared of Roxroy at the merge. So he could really fall down the picking order when they get there.
Yeah, and I think that also, but it also could mean that he could easily be scooped up by another alliance that kind of notices, like, okay, this guy, he's just going to tell us what he actually thinks, and he's not going to try to plot behind our backs. If we can just prove our trust to him and, say that we'll play honorably or whatever he wants to hear, then I think that we could scoop him up and use him as a number.
Yeah. And I don't know if Roxroy is religious as well, but I feel like he may be. He comes across as conservative in his ways, and like, I wouldn't be surprised if he also, like, I just think Taku is going to be the hot kid at the prom. Everybody's going to want to dance, like, everybody's going to want to work with him because there's going to be more cohesion there when they get to the merge. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and work his way in there as well at some point, or someone approaching him potentially to come over. I do want to go to the Vati tribe here before we go into the immunity challenge, and really fun episode here. Obviously Daniel was your number one guy pick for the season. RIP to your number one pick here, this specific episode. But Daniel's such a fun character. He, again, I think as a narrator, we've lost so much by losing him this specific episode. He was basically the main narrator for that tribe. So I kind of had hope that the edit has given him some plot armor and that he maybe just squeezes his way into the merge ahead of Chanel, who, to me, personality-wise, she doesn't seem to have the same... she doesn't pop on the screen the same way Daniel does for me. I don't get that same feeling of, man, I really want to get behind her. But I can see that she's got the makings of potentially being a very good player. So, I mean, she could still go on to the merge and surprise us here. But what was interesting to me was seeing Daniel here going out and really just showing he is not socially aware. Like, taking the spear, going out fishing, being out in the water, going down to the reef, when he's telling his tribe he can't contribute in challenges. There was always going to be hurt feelings at some stage by his tribe for going out there and doing these things when he does not contribute at camp or at the immunity challenges.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It reminds me of in Blood versus Water when Tyson actually popped his shoulder out at a challenge, and the doctors there kind of told him the same thing as Daniel, like, okay, we popped it back in, but you need to kind of look after it and you might be in some pain. And so Tyson played it up for the rest of the season and was like, oh, I need to rest my shoulder, even though he was in no pain at all. The tribe
But
had
he was
no
smart
expectation.
though. But he was smart. He didn't go out and fish. He didn't go out and do these things. I
That's
remember
what, yeah,
explicitly him lying in the hammock saying, "I need to
that's
play
what
it
I'm
up."
saying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying. Exactly. He
yeah.
should have maybe taken a play out of that book and like really played it up at camp. Like I get, maybe it was Tyson's third time on Survivor, so he doesn't really care about like the experience of going out and fishing and doing all this. Maybe that's what Daniel wanted. Um, but if you're really trying to play it as optimally as you can, I mean, maybe take a play out of that book. And I mean, we
I
knew
don't think Daniel
Tyson.
was there to
Yeah,
win. I don't think Daniel was there to win from the start. It was never
no,
for him
he
about
never
winning.
thought
It
he
was
was
there for
going
the
to win.
experience. Exactly. You
Yeah,
don't go into a show like Survivor saying, "Oh, I'm going to go out and dominate and win the season and play that way." And he didn't do that. Like he went out saying, "Listen, I probably won't win. These are all the reasons I'm not going to win, but I'm going to have the best time of my life while I'm out here." Like you said, so many people take the game too serious and they don't indulge in the moment. But for
yeah.
me, it's you only get one shot. Like Daniel, like great. Like, I mean, I'm going to look at Daniel as the character that could have been great on our screens in the future. I mean, I think if he made Merge, if he went deep in this game, he reminded me when it comes to the way that he narrates, he reminds me of Rick Devens in a lot of ways. Like, he's just charismatic,
Yeah.
Even until the end when he's fighting to stay in the game, he's charismatic, but he doesn't have the makings of a great player when it comes to his social awareness, sadly, and how people perceive him within the tribe. And once again, hats off here to everybody else in the tribe for galvanizing together and trying to make the best out of a bad situation. But I do think maybe they're doing a better job than what I think. Like Chanel should not feel too comfortable at this point. Like she really is the fourth tag along in this alliance,
I don't
and I
think
think
she
it should be
does.
clear.
I don't think she
Yeah,
does feel comfortable, especially after the last tribal where they put 2 votes on her. She was the backup, which she probably expected that. I mean,
mm.
she even said at camp, like, "Hey, I think I might be on the chopping block tonight, so I just want to have some one-on-one conversations with everyone." I think that she has a lot more self-awareness than Daniel,
I think so. Yeah,
and so in terms of
I think
the
she's a better
draft,
player than Daniel. She's not better TV, but she's a better player than
yep,
Daniel for sure.
that's what I was going to say. I think she's a better player, and as you know, Daniel was my number one guy pick. Chanel was my number one girl
Girl
pick.
pick.
So I was
Yeah.
going to lose my number one either way tonight. And I'm
So are
glad
you
that it was,
happy?
yeah,
I was going
yeah,
to say, are you happy
yeah,
about the number one pick that you still have in the game? Do you
yeah,
think she's got a better shot?
for sure. I think that if we're talking who's more likely to win, I think Chanel has
Yeah,
more
I
is
agree.
more likely to try to get something going. I mean, I think Daniel, like you kind of said, was maybe not out there to win. I mean, at the very least, he didn't think he was going to win, so there's just not enough drive. And I think
Yeah.
Chanel has that drive.
I think Daniel was exactly who we thought he was going to be based on his preseason content that
Yeah,
he gave us. Like, a lot of players
yeah,
go in the preseason content and they tell you who they're going to be, how they're going to play, and then
they're
we
completely
don't see
different.
that person out there. But I feel like he was like exactly who he said he was going to be. But in any case, going into just prior to the immunity, Mike has a bit of a chat with Hi, I believe. Maybe also Lydia is around there. But he says that I'm not going to play, I'm not going to activate my idol. I want to keep on to this because I get my vote back the next round if there's a merge. And also, I get the idol, and no one will know where the idol is, which I thought rock solid strategy to begin with. Now, obviously, going into the immunity, he wouldn't have known if they were going to win the immunity or if they were going to lose the immunity. So he has to take a gamble to either say his phrase or keep it quiet prior to knowing the outcome of the immunity. Do you like this play by Mike to just activate it in this stage and to be rather safe than sorry? Or do you think that he's missed a massive opportunity here? If you were to put yourself in Mike's shoes and you were out there, how do you play this situation?
This is, at first, I was thinking and I said, why would you do that? Like,
Mm.
there's no reason. You just went back on exactly what you told the tribe was going to do, what you were going to do. But you think about it, like you said, he didn't know if he was going to win or lose this challenge. They end up losing. And he kind of explained it in his confessional. He said, I felt like my vote was important. And it was. it was very important in this tribe of 5. They wanted to split the votes on Chanel and Daniel, which is exactly what they did. And if he doesn't do that, then they don't get to split the vote. And who knows, maybe whoever they have to pile all the votes on one person. And maybe Chanel and Daniel for some reason team up and it gets to a tie. That's going to go bonkers again, you know? And who knows, maybe they draw rocks and maybe Mike goes home in some freak way, you know? It's just a lot of craziness. However, if you're looking at if they win that challenge, if he wouldn't have said anything and they would have won that challenge, it just would have been beautiful. No one knows about it. They're going into the merge in the very next episode, but there was no way for him to know that even the merge was next episode. Who knows? It's the new era, as they're saying to them. Maybe they're not merging till 9 or 10. Who knows what they're thinking out there? So really, really tough decision for him. And at first I thought it was pretty cut and dry what he should have done, but as I thought more about it, like there's a lot of nuance to that decision.
Yeah, I think personally, if you're out there and you're in that situation in a tribe of 5, you know that the tribe is very divided. You don't know if Daniel and Chanel can patch things up. Like, you don't have the 360-degree view that we as viewers of the show have. So you don't know if behind the scenes they're saying, listen, Mike doesn't have a vote. Let's stay together. That way we ensure both our safety in the game, and let's go to rocks this time. You just don't know if they're going to do that. So I feel like Mike did do the right thing. Like, at first I was like, horrible decision. Why did you let people know you've got the idol? You went against what you told your tribe. But I could also see that High seemed really relieved by that.
Sorry, I just thought of something.
Yes.
If Mike did not activate his vote, or activate the idol and got his vote back, and Daniel and Chanel decided to... wait a second. Never mind what I was about to say. I thought that if they would have loaded up, if those two would have teamed up and loaded on someone, that they could have flipped it, but it would have just gone to rocks. But
it would have gone to rocks because High and they might have been able to do it on Mike. They could have targeted Mike, and they could have said to High, "You're really going to go to rocks for Mike. Like, I know you would do it for Lydia, but are you going to do it for Mike? He's only been your ally for 2 days, you know, type of thing." Right. So that would have probably been the right play there. But I feel like from Mike's point of view, doing what he did in this spot and activating the idol, it was definitely the right decision, not knowing if he was going to win the immunity or not at that point. It's going to have some consequences to his game long term, because obviously everybody now knows where the idol is. I also want to point out Drea. I found it really funny. Another funny scene with Drea. I don't know how big of a fan she is, but she said that in this new era of Survivor, us women we're also now finding idols. This is a thing that we can do as well. Just like last season was the toughest season ever. It's like, really? Like, I mean, there's been many women in recent seasons that have found idols. Like, you're not the first. I think more women find idols these days than men.
Yes.
So you're not special, Drea, in that case. Love you, Drea, if you ever listen to this. Like, I actually do enjoy you as a character, but I had to call it out.
I believe that since David versus Goliath, more women have found idols than men.
I believe that's that. I believe that's that.
Yeah. So,
because men are, it's harder for men these days. I feel like for men, like, people expect them to go and find idols. So there's like an extra, view that people have on a guy walking off on his own to go and find an idol potentially. But there's been, I did a quick search online before we came on here, but there's been many. There's been Natalie Anderson, Kelly, Keely, Parvati, Sandra. There's even an old school people, Denise, Janet. The list goes on and on.
Yeah,
Kim,
Island of the Idols. Island of the Idols definitely boosted the numbers, I think, for the women, because Kelly found 2, Janet found 2. I think Janet found
1. But no, Nullify. The Nullify was used on her. No, I think she found 1. I think, but I mean, again, the point is, Drea, you're not the only one. This is not a new era thing that you're suddenly getting all of this. Christian says here that Drea seems a little bit cocky. She does, but I kind of like that about her.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was just about to say I kind of like.
We need a little bit of we need a little bit of personality, a little bit of zing behind some players, So I mean, I'm going to call BS out when I see it, but I also like that she's bringing that little bit of a grunt to the game.
Yeah.
Now that we've seen the phrases play out in 2 seasons with the idols being used in such a way, yay or nay on this twist? Do you think, like, I mean, going forward, people are probably going to know to listen out for phrases, but yay or nay on the concept of playing around with the idols and how it gets activated, I guess. Should this be something that they need to look at in future seasons and continue with, or would you just like to see the traditional idols? So if you find one and it's immediately activated?
I'm totally yay for activating it in a special way. I think that was the biggest kind of flaw in the game, this new modern game, where there's so many idols. So we see people like Ben and Rick Devens who just are on the bottom and have very little social capital and kind of don't really have to do much except find a little magic stick in the woods and just play it and give it to Jeff, and boom, that's it. It kind of took away from the social aspect. And I think that this kind of, I think more than not, it was supposed to be kind of a fun little haha, they have to say a funny phrase at the immunity challenge. But really, it's, you gotta, and they kind of experimented with this in Winners at War, where you had to give one part of the idol to someone, but I believe that was only in the pre-merge. I believe like Denise and Adam did that. Kim and Sophie did that. I kind of liked that, and they, definitely went more extreme this time. But I like that there's more like social, like now the people that have the idols know each other. They know who has the idols, so it's not just like you just go in the woods by yourself, you find it, oh, I have it, and then at travel council, oh, I have it, here it is, and just do that over and over and over again. So I'm definitely for this kind of like activating it in a new way.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on it. I love it. I think that it actually takes the power of the idols down so much, because it's almost impossible to hide it at the moment. So different people know about it. You have to work, like you said, with other tribe members as well to get it activated. And also it's minimized the amount of idols that we find in the game, because idols really don't get played before the merge now, because in both seasons they've only been activated prior to the merge. So that means like last season we only had 3 idols in the game. We probably will only have 3 idols in the game this season. If you compare that to older seasons and the 30 to 40 series seasons, like, I mean, idols were popping out of the woodwork left, right, and center. So and it's even worse with Australian Survivor. Like the amount of idols, like at some stages you get more idols in the game being played than people being voted out. So for me it's just not on. So I'm enjoying it as well. I do want to get into the immunity challenge here. Quite a fun immunity challenge. We get a little bit of an obstacle course where they've got to lift each other up to go over this net, get down on the other side. One nominated person needs to untangle a key from a rope through like a rope challenge or puzzle that they have to go through. It seems like everybody does a really good job here, but Omar finds it specifically difficult, which was crazy to see, because he's being pitched as this cool, calm, and collective person that can adapt to any situation as a veterinarian that works with exotic animals and all this kind of thing. But when the pressure is really on him here, he really comes apart. And if it wasn't for Jonathan pulling it out from the back and just absolutely monstering it at the end, I mean, what a display again. Taku would have been in danger here.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you have Jonathan on your tribe, you always have a bit of leeway with the puzzle, because either he sets you up super well, or you can kind of slack a little bit and he'll take the reins from you and just take care of it. And would have been definitely like that Vati lost, because of now it's going to be a 4-4-4 going into the merge, which will be fun.
I agree. Christian here, just going back to our previous comment where we spoke about the idols, is mentioning that he would prefer traditional idols for 43 and 44. These funky idols seem too obvious and useless. Just saying, you know what, Christian? I don't like the first season. I really, really hated the phrases. It's like, what is this? This is being done for Jeff's amusement. I don't necessarily think that it has to be the exact same, like, because I don't think you could do the same twist again.
Can't
Like
do it
people
again.
now,
Yeah.
people now will know that there's phrases that are being said at immunity challenge. But I like the fact that they're being creative with the idols and they're trying different things. So I'm not against the fact that they're trying to make it harder for people to get idols and to activate it. I kind of like that idea. I think there is some gold behind it, but I also understand that a lot of people won't like it and that they would like the traditional. I mean, I'm an old school Survivor fan, and there's a lot of things I still struggle with new school Survivor myself sometimes. So I don't hate the fact that some people might not agree with both myself and Jake here, and how we see it. But I do like the fact that it's a little bit harder for you to just get idols and that you can't overpower your way through the game with idols alone. Like you have to have that dynamic between social play and idols. But, either way, I'm excited to see what they do for 43 and 44 because they definitely won't be able to do the same thing. I think the cat's out of the bag with how they've done the last 2 seasons. And we've gotten our entertainment value out of it with Mike doing a horrible job at talking about soccer having no grace. Like, I mean, if people weren't suspicious, like, hell, man, like I would have been super suspicious because, when you're lying, people always try and overcomplicate or overtell you so many things in the story. And his story was long-winded. Drea was an expert at it. Like it was so smooth. You would have thought it made sense the way she said it,
Definitely. Yeah. And I really liked it. Like last season when Ricard really was able to get Xander into it, like really smoothly, was like, and we're all going crazy out here, Jeff. And Xander was even saying something. What was it that you said again? And then he was able to repeat it. That was really good. And then, Drea did it so good. And then Marianne has been such a trooper these past episodes. Just having to, same with Xander, like they just had to repeat it over and over again. And people are just like, what are you saying right now? And Mike just kind of like Nasir last season, except he did it even worse. He just,
way worse.
Just comes out, says it. What is it? What is he even referring to right now? And he says, you may be wondering why I said that. And they're like, yeah, we are. And then he just doesn't. This
is the most long-winded story. It's the most long-winded story I've ever heard. And like the thing with Nasir, I think why he got away with it is because, again, his first language isn't English, and then also there's that cultural thing. So people would probably be like, "Oh, maybe wherever he's from, that makes sense." I don't know what that means, but we don't want to be culturally insensitive to what he's saying. So I feel like he had a bit of plot armor or like traditional armor around him for being able to say that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do like the fact here that they end up sending some people to Shipwheel Island just before we get back to the pre-tribal section, and Roxroy and Lindsay are both, Lydia are both on the Shipwheel Island, and they both are trying to like figure each other out, get a little bit of information, but it's kind of like they're almost exactly the same player in some ways, like the way that they're playing it very cautiously, and they both choose to save their vote. Like, I mean, this season's been amazing because the players have just been completely giving us different outcomes compared to the previous season, and it's actually been fun to see how different it is this season, But the most awkward, like you could just tell these two, they're not going to jive long term because they didn't trust each other with this littlest of information. They did not use this opportunity to build anything, and I feel like it's probably more Roxroy's fault than Lydia, because I feel like Lydia, maybe she would have given a little bit more, but Roxroy probably is very standoffish.
Yeah, I mean, this just kind of goes to show like Roxroy just has a bit of trouble with the social game. I mean, and he probably relates to Lydia in zero ways. And like he probably has absolutely nothing in common with her, and that's definitely a flaw that he can't figure out how to maneuver that, because we've seen players bond before that, like Jonathan and Omer. They have nothing in common that we can see, but they're, tight, and they're able to kind of find common ground. And, Omer and Chanel don't really seem to have much in common either, and they were able to kind of make a connection a little bit, but it's just, you couldn't pick two like any more different players than those two and put them on the island. And I mean, I knew Lydia wasn't going to risk her vote because she didn't want to be the next Chanel, especially because they're going to tribal. But Roxroy, I mean, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone either that he protected his vote because that's just how he plays the game.
Christian here did say Lydia's flashback episode was this episode. We got to learn a little bit about her backstory. Someone that has always struggled, like she said, with self-image, and it's something that's very common for a lot of girls. I believe, guys in general have sometimes more confidence and sometimes it's unwarranted. But Lydia sort of talks about the fact, that this has been a journey for her, just the self-discovery and feeling comfortable with who she is. So we got a little bit of backstory here. I'm a little bit worried for Lydia with this coming up now. It could be a sign she's 2 or 3 episodes away from being gone, because, she's had absolutely zero edit up until this point. And for all purposes, if you follow her Twitter account, you'd probably think she's like a Courtney Yates type of character, like really sassy and funny, and we're not seeing any of that. And I think there is a reason we're not really seeing that personality come up. And I think that this tells us that her story is more about, similar to Daniel, it's about a journey and, self-fulfillment, or finding herself on this island. It's not really tied to the win for me at this point. It's kind of what I'm reading in it. I don't know if you're seeing it differently.
No, I can see what you mean. I don't think that she has really given us much gameplay. And of course, there's the whole merge to go where she can kind of blossom and maybe make something happen. But at the moment, I think we're kind of come to think that she's sidekicks with High, and he's kind of taken over the strategic bulk of the duo.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say as well, it's interesting she does end up saving her vote here. Obviously, I think it was a no-brainer. She had to save her vote. She couldn't risk it at this point, just with the way the votes were in that specific tribe, similar to with how it, we mentioned Mike considering activating his idol so he could get his vote back was probably the right decision here as well. But obviously that makes them very excited, because it does give all the power to High and his alliance to be able to split the vote going into the tribal council. And they do a good job talking to both Chanel and Daniel here to make them believe that they're going to be the person that they're going to work with moving forward into the game. I guess ultimately here, I'm sort of interested to know from your end, do you think that they made the right decision? Like, if you were in their shoes and you had to choose between either Daniel and Chanel, who do you think is the better player to keep in the game?
That would have been a tough one. Personally, I probably would have gotten rid of Chanel because, as I kind of said earlier, I just think she has a bit more social awareness and overall, I think just a better player, honestly. And I think Chanel probably is going to jump ship. She doesn't really, I don't know. She doesn't really have much loyalty to High and Lydia or even Mike, especially where they just split the vote on her. Like, she was the backup,
Yeah.
In case Daniel played a shot in the dark. So she has really no allegiance to them, and she's going to, I think they both wouldn't have had allegiance to their tribe, and who has more, like, kind of more to work with. And I think Chanel does. I don't think Daniel is really going to make some noise as much as Chanel.
I was very sort of, my attention went to a specific scene in this episode when I watched it for the second time around, where when Lydia comes back from Shipwheel Island, she has a conversation with Chanel. And Chanel asks her, is everything okay? And Lydia's like, yep, vote's solid. This is how it's going to go. And Chanel says, okay, I'm comfortable with both you and Mike. She does not mention High. And High is the person this whole episode that is really wary of Chanel. So I always look at it from a sense of who's the biggest winners and losers for each one of these votes. I feel like, I've been a very big High supporter, and we do get a lot of content from High now as one of the people that are giving us a little bit of this is strategically where we need to go. This is strategically what we have to do. I do feel like Mike got his way here potentially, and that there is a bigger relationship between her and Mike than what we potentially realize as an audience at this point. And I'm going to make a very bold call here. I feel like Mike going into this merge now, we're seeing a lot about people wanting to be friends with him, who's going to outlive who, and we're going to be friends forever. And Mike is just a genuinely nice guy. I'm going to make a big call. I think Mike is the player to watch out for. in this tribe going into the merge. I think socially, he's going to absolutely kill it when he gets to the merge. And he's going to find other people from other tribes that are fractured that are going to want to work with him because he's going to come across as a nice and trustworthy and stand-up guy. Even though he doesn't look like the strategic mastermind, we've been getting a lot of Mike from the beginning. From the opening episode until now, there's not been a single episode where we haven't been told what Mike's thinking or what he's doing out there. Even some of the silly moments with him losing his idol and talking about how that happened. Like, why show us so much of Mike? So I've got a feeling Mike is the dark horse going. He's my blue chip stock that I'll put some money on going into the merge as a potential underdog winner or underdog deep person from this tribe. Do you see it that way, or do you have someone else in mind here that potentially we're missing out on, or are you sort of on that as well with me?
I think I'm on that as well. I might be a little biased because Mike was my second guy pick, I believe, coming into the draft, and I really couldn't be any more satisfied with that pick. I mean, you were a bit dumbfounded by that choice, and in the moment I was like, oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I mean,
did you make a mistake? Yeah.
I mean, I like we said, I mean, we were just not high on the guys as much coming into this season, so I was like, I mean, I guess Mike is really who I've got to go with at this point, and I really couldn't be happier. I mean, I think that he's killing it, and I think he will continue to kill it, specifically because of his social game. And that's what I think most of us were a bit worried about, was that he wasn't really going to be able to relate to these people and make those
his social game's
but
good. Yeah, so
really
social
good.
game's rock solid. I think he's in a very solid position at the moment with High and potentially Chanel, and looks like Lydia likes him as well, even though we've seen very little of her. But yeah, you've got quite a few people still left here on this team. Before we start talking about how we think people are going to go into the merge, how are they going to do? Who's our power rankings for the merge? I think would be interesting to talk about the top 3 players we think for this episode, and then let's talk about who our top 3 picks are to do well in the merge. But before we go into that, interesting thing that I did observe though is that Chanel plays the rogue vote on Mike here this episode. Now, I know you're the numbers guy, so I'll get you to let me know if you can see any reason why she would have done that. And then secondly, I thought it was quite interesting that she was playing it off, saying it definitely wasn't her that did that vote, because you could see Mike was actually upset about it.
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Like I was dumbfounded. I'm like, why? She could have made it a definite Daniel vote off, and she could have just put one on Daniel. It would have been 3-2. Daniel's gone, no revote necessary. But I found it interesting that even as Daniel was leaving, she was trying to, like, she had that look in her eyes like, hey Daniel, look at me, I'm so sorry type of thing. She was really empathizing with him, and I think that relationship, she actually did care for Daniel on a personal level. I feel like where did it go wrong for these two, Jake? Like, I feel like they could have been such a strong pair. It's just it crumbled in that previous episode with Daniel calling Chanel out, and I do blame Daniel more than Chanel in that instance. Really, you never publicly call an ally out.
Very, very interesting relationship we had from these two. What I've come to, I actually listened to or read his interview with Dalton Ross, and come to find out that, after Jenny in episode 1 talked about her journey to Shipwell Island and how they had to choose to protect or risk their vote, and they saw that, like, oh, more people are going to get sent here. Chanel and Daniel had a private conversation telling each other, if we go, do not risk your vote. Like, under any circumstances, don't do it, especially if we're going to tribal. That episode, and Chanel just completely disregarded that. I think that I don't know what she thought she was doing. She played some 5D chess with Omer, convincing him that she needs to protect her vote, but is actually gonna. I don't know. I'm giving myself a headache even trying to explain it. I mean,
it's bad.
And then, so I mean, of course, that's on Chanel because she just completely went back on her promise. But then Daniel just has to blow.
I think Chanel is good enough socially. I think Chanel's good enough socially to be able to mend that bridge with Omar and just say, hey, Omar, sorry. Like, listen, I blew both our games up. Like, clearly there was a misunderstanding. And I feel like they did like each other enough to work together at the merge. So, I mean, that's another hidden relationship that Shipwheel Island has given us that could play out in the merge.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last season there was with Evie and Deshawn where she spilled the beans that Xander had the idol, and we kind of see that come to bite her later. So this could be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, we didn't see Chanel giving up really any valuable information, but could be a relationship to see. And it's going to be interesting when Omer comes to find out that he does not have a vote at the next tribal council. He might think that he has an extra vote, but Chanel, I don't know if she's going to have a conversation with him saying, yeah, sorry, buddy, I risked it. And clearly you risked it too because I lost mine. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That could be what she needs to use to get into Taku's good graces or Amara's good graces. She could build some capital there to say, hey, listen, I'm happy to vote with you or something. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm just wondering, as we're thinking about Shipwheel Island, this last advantage, because it was pretty boring, the advantages this season on Shipwheel Island. I think it did miss with the extra vote every single time. Like, I feel like an extra vote's not that exciting as an advantage. I'm wondering if this last advantage that nobody got, if that was the knowledge is power advantage. And if it was, thank goodness that we did not see it come into the game, because I'm an absolute hater of that advantage. Luckily, it played out in a good way where Xander and everybody could outsmart, forgot the girl's name last season, Liana, when it came to it. So because I was very pro that twist not working, but I really hate that twist, especially in the season where it's so easy to know who's got the idol because of the phrases, so happy to not see that. Let's get into our top 3 players for this week. Let's make it brief on this one, and we can go into a little bit more detail of who we think will be the top players, I guess, going into the merge. At number 3, who would you have at your number 3 spot?
I think I'm going to go with Drea. And I think, we kind of went over why I think out of anyone on Ika, I think she definitely has the best chance to win. I think Tori might make it far, but I just don't see her being able to get the votes to maybe win. And Romeo, as we said, I think they're going to be on the bottom, and I don't know if he can really make something happen. But Drea's got a lot of, as she said, she's rich. She's survivor rich. She's got 3 advantages. Extra vote, amulet, idol. So that's a lot, and that's nothing to scoff at. That can definitely make something happen, especially if she's able to save it and kind of get safe through a few votes where the numbers have kind of dwindled down.
And if Romeo can become her Trish, then maybe that whole Drea being Tony Vlachos 2.0 comes to fruition, That I've been saying this whole season. My 3rd place is going to be Omar. I think Omar, for me, still is the winner pick at this stage. And I think that us seeing him trying to keep everybody happy and calm is the right read going into a merge situation where we've got 4-4-4 as a split, which is very exciting to see. There's no tribe going into a majority position here. And he knows that Marianne is a tool to be used at this stage. She's got the idol. She's got an extra vote. You do not want to piss that off and send that into an opposite direction so that she can blow you up. You don't want to do that. So I feel like Omar, for me, good reads, still top 3 pick here this episode. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is actually Omer, kind of for the same reasons as you said. He's placed very well within this Taku alliance, and as we were kind of saying, we think that the Taku's going to be the cool kids, the hot kids on the block coming into the merge, and Omer's positioned really well within those where he's got Marianne and Jonathan both kind of as his close allies. And overall, I just think he has a really good social game and a mind for the game. And he's got a potential ally in Chanel, perhaps. So I just think he has a lot of potential coming into this.
Now, my number 2 pick for this week is going to be Mike. And like I said, Mike is starting to climb up for me. It feels to me like socially he is doing extremely well. And we know this is a social game. So I think that if Mike gets to the end somehow, I just have a feeling he's winning it socially. Like people are just
Yeah.
liking him. They want to be friends with him outside of this game. He's clearly a likable character now. He did make a bit of a mistake in explaining why soccer is such a graceful game that it makes him cry, which was a little bit
Yeah.
not the greatest. You can mark him down, maybe one for that. But I do feel like him keeping Chanel in the game and also having High there and Lydia, I feel like he's in a rock solid position to go into this tribe. And if there is any hope for this tribe to galvanize them together, I actually feel like it's Mike more so than High. For some other reason, High doesn't seem to like that one comment. And again, this is one comment for one conversation in a 24-hour day that happened where Chanel said, I'm close with you and Mike to Lydia. I think that kind of shows me that High isn't socially hitting home with everyone the way we would think he would.
Chris, I think you kind of used as a negative that it was just one comment in a 24-hour day. It's interesting that they have 24 hours to work with, and they chose to
Show
put that one comment in the episode.
Mm.
And they have to really use their time wisely in these episodes. So one little moment they think long and hard about putting it in. So could definitely mean something. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So your number 1 pick here for this week, who is that, Jake?
I guess I'm kind of just shifting one up from you because my number 1 is Mike. And basically for the reasons you said, I think that he just has really good social game, and I might be overrating it a little bit just because it's just so much better than I expected it to be. But I really think that if he's close with Lydia, who is just kind of similar to her and Roxroy, very different people. Gen Z versus, I believe, maybe baby boomer, or Gen X. I'm not sure exactly how old
I think
he
a
is.
boomer.
Yeah. So that's pretty impressive. That he's able to, and he's bonding with High too.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, that comment seems to, maybe he's close with Chanel, although they did vote for each other. But I just think that he's got a lot working in his favor going into he's got an idol now that people may or may not know about based on the phrases. Yeah, I like him coming into the merge. Yeah. Definitely someone, yeah.
For me, me and you are kind of funny. We've got the same top 3, but we've had it in different orders. My number 1 is Drea going into it. And I've got Christian here in the chat asking, do you think Drea has the Sepia or Natalie Anderson vibe to them? I think more Natalie Anderson vibe for me personally than the Sepia. I think the Sepia from memory was socially really good. I don't think that Drea is a great social player, but I think she's that kind of player that if she gets to the end, people are just going to look at her and she's either going to be a Russell Hans type of player who don't win because she's too cutthroat and big game moves. But then we're in a different era of Survivor now where people respect big game moves sometimes at the expense of social game, unless you're a horrible person to others out there and you're bullying them. I think that Drea, if she gets to the end, we said it last week with Russell Muscle on the podcast, if she gets to the end, she is going to have to play out of her skin to get there. Because I feel like she's such a big physical threat. She's clearly strategic. People can see that she's constantly thinking about the game. She's got all of these different advantages. Somewhere down the line, because also having all these advantages is a double-edged sword, because the more you have to play these advantages at Tribal Council, the more you build your resume. So it's also about when do you play it? Do you play it early merge? Do you play it mid-merge or later in the merge? Like, ideally, you want to keep that as long as you can so you don't have to make those big moves, similar to how you don't want to win challenges from the first episode or the first day after merge. You want to time it outright. So Drea's biggest challenge in the game is going to be, how does she play her advantages and when does she play it? And then her other biggest stumbling block is she does not have a strong core. She's going to have to go find a core because she's got Romeo and that's it. So I'm fearful in regards to that, but I still respect the fact that, you know, she's Survivor rich, she's got all these things, she's got the idol this episode. Romeo wants to coach her to become a better player and win the game. He's not even thinking about winning it himself anymore.
Yep.
He's now playing it for Drea. I mean, if you've got other players there playing for you to win, you're doing something right, you know, at the end of the day. If they're willing to sacrifice their game and coach you to become better and lift you up, you know, in Survivor, that's a powerful tool she's got there. She needs to bottle that and sell it. She'll make a lot of money. You know, let's get into the power rankings real quick. I know we want to keep it as close as possible to an hour today. Jake has got some other commitments he's got to jump onto as well. Otherwise, we would have dragged this out a little bit longer. So maybe not, we won't go into too much detail for this here, but rattle off who's your top 3 players. Doesn't need to be in a particular order if you don't want to, but who do you think is the top 3 players to look out for going into the merge?
I think kind of similar to our top 3, I think Mike is someone. Jonathan and Omer, those 2 kind of I'm thinking more as one, because I think they're going to stick together. Either one of them definitely going to make something happen. And Hai, I think, has definitely some strategic ability to him, but there may be a bit of flaws in his social game, as you pointed out. But overall, I think he's solid. It's kind of similar to my top 3 this week, honestly. I think Drea, I mean, we went over it. She has some advantages, and I think she's going to play really hard, and that's definitely good. So
Christian here says top contenders, big threats to win: Jonathan, Drea, and Hai as their top second contenders group. Under the group just under the biggest threats to win is Omar, Marianne, Mike, Romeo, and Lindsay, and then third, which is the last group, not that high on Tori and Chanel at this stage. For me personally, I don't know. Like, it's funny how when we came into the season, we were very low on Taku, and now I'm like the highest on Taku. And I agree with Russell that someone from Taku is winning this season. I just think it's them. I find it very hard to look outside of them, but I mean, it's early days. Survivor US do have a way of tricking us with the edit, so definitely something different can still happen. I'm not putting it out there, but let's look at this objectively. I think Omar, biggest winner pick for me at this point. I still think he's got to be in the top 3 somewhere. It's hard not to put Jonathan in there, even though I know I'll probably regret it if he gets voted out at the merge or the second episode because he doesn't win an immunity. But I feel like we've just seen so much of Jonathan. So it's either they're building him up to become the next James Clement, the next Heroes versus villains, fans versus favorite returnee person that is going to be, you know, a legend of the game in the future. He's in the new era Colby Donaldson, you know. Or maybe he goes out there and smashes the record that's been there since Australian Outback. Maybe he wins 6 immunities this season. I'd love to see it. I know some people would be low on that and they'd be like, oh, he won his way to the end. It's less impressive. I beg to differ. If you can break a record that's been out there for that many years, then that's going to be pretty impressive. So maybe Omar, Jonathan, is hard to look past them in there. And then my wildcard pick is like Drea. I'd have to put Drea in there. I just think that she's someone that can just go in there and really smash this game right open, like the hourglass. Maybe that is what we see next week. I think Christian asked something about the hourglass here. I'm just going to try and see if I can find that comment. All right, so here we go. So Christian says, just curious, do you think we're going to see someone smash the hourglass this season? And do you think the winner of the season is coming from the one who decides the hourglass like Erica? I'm putting it out there that lightning is not going to strike twice. Natalie Anderson came back from Edge of Extinction. She didn't win that after the Edge of Extinction, which I think shows that things don't happen in pairs necessarily in Survivor. So I don't think whoever smashes it wins it this season. And I think that someone will smash it because they're going to be in a position again where it won't make sense not to smash it, I'm thinking. But I think it'll be less lethal. Like, I feel like it's not going to, like, I don't know how. Maybe it's like pairs for immunity or individual immunity and one person's. I just hope that the immunity doesn't get taken away. I just hope they have reworked the twist and it means something different. Daniel comes back into the game. Time has returned, and he's now also part of the merge. You know, I'll even take that.
Zach comes back.
Zach comes back. Yeah, the first boot's back in the game.
I think we kind of forget what a crazy situation. Like, kind of everything kind of fell together perfectly for Erica because she felt like she was on the bottom of Luvu. And I believe that the group that had one immunity and she could have that she ended up choosing to strip the immunity from had like 4 people from Luvu on there.
Yeah.
There's like Deshaun, Danny, and Nasir. I forget who. I think it might have been no, because Sydney ended up going home. So, or no, so it would have been So Sydney was on there because she ended up.
Yeah.
So she wanted to screw them over. So
Makes sense.
yeah. So I mean, she's like.
Plus, I mean,
yeah,
she would
why
have been
not?
one of like 6 people that is vulnerable if she didn't smash it. Like, I mean, there was no
Okay.
no
Yes.
choice. There was no
Exactly.
choice.
That's something I just forgot about.
Yeah.
Jeff's like, so do you want to give up 100% in immunity next vote? Why would you say no?
Yeah.
Why would
Yeah.
or
Plus,
or
your
why
odds
would
is like suddenly you're in a top 6 situation without having
Yeah.
any bonds with the people that are
Yep.
vulnerable. Like, it just didn't make any sense. And
Yep.
her tribe just sent her to wherever she
Yep.
went, the edge or whatever they want to call it. They just sent her there. So I mean, she had no loyalty to them at that point. Like,
No.
what's all's fair in love and war. So, but I think it plays out differently this season, definitely.
It's gonna be it's gonna be like I said, all these things came together where it was someone that was on the bottom of their tribe, and all of her tribe was on that tribe that won. So it's like if we get like Lindsay, who goes to the island, and then Jonathan and Omer are on the tribe that win, she's probably going to choose to save them because those are her allies, and she's close with them. And Jonathan is probably going to be a threat to the people at the merge, and they're going to consider him to vote him out. So I think that it's just a different situation this time around.
Yeah. Christian here. Last question before we say goodbye here on the live stream. Christian says, I can see that in this season that someone gives up immunity at the Final Four, makes fire and loses the fire challenge. It's a bold predictions. Your thoughts? I think you're 100% right, Christian, and that person would be Drea. She's the only one who would have the confidence to do that and then lose the fire challenge, because she would go up against Jonathan saying that she can do it better as a woman. She can do it better than a man. And she will go out there and lose to Jonathan because he's a beast. But yeah, I mean, listen, anything can happen at the end of the day. I think it's a scenario we haven't seen yet, but I would still respect the player if they did that. Like, I mean, Natalie Anderson, if she lost against Tony at Fire and Winners at War, I think people would have looked at that game, because a lot of people still now, and I know it hurts her because she feels like she played a great game. Most people don't think she played a great game. I don't think she played a great game at Winners at War. She, yes, physically did well. She did well in the edge, but she didn't take on the biggest target when everybody at the edge said, Tony gets to the end, he wins. So you really have one choice. You can either say, okay, well, I guess there's money involved, right? Because second place get 100 grand, so I can't be too tough on her. It's like, listen, either I came here for a holiday or I came here to get 100 grand. I don't know. Maybe I'll make the same decision. But if you wanted to win, you should have gone up against Tony. And if you lost against Tony, I would have respected you still for trying to take out the best player that season,
Right. Yeah.
All right, Jake. It's been great talking to you about Survivor Season 42, Episode 5. Next week we've got the merge episode coming up. I'm really excited about that. Potentially we'll have a guest on. If we don't have a guest on next week, I'm still trying to lock that in. We definitely have one confirmed for the week after that, and there will be some more Survivor players that will come on. Sadly, the person we were going to have on this week couldn't make it. They're at the moment busy filming as well in Australia, so we won't talk about anything more than that. We'll leave it up for the Reddit speculation if they come across this podcast of who could potentially be filming in Australia right now, what shows may be currently hitting Australia very, very soon. Maybe a Paramount show. Who knows? Jake, it's been great talking to you. We'll talk next week again. And for Christian here in the live stream, thank you so much for being so active. If you're listening to this later on, if it's even in the audio format, please jump on YouTube, consider subscribing and liking the video. Comment below to go into the draw when we hit 1,000 subs for the 5 Survivor US merge buffs from season 1 to 5. It's going to be a great giveaway that we'll do when we hit 1,000 subs here on the channel. As always, guys, enjoy your evening and catch you next time.